Yo.
What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. Gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat. Street Beat.
With
Tony.
Welcome to this edition of Street Beat. It's me, Tony B. And you know what? We're going to pick up on something that is a absolute year-round. We do something called the week of First Week, which seems to be a Wednesday, I believe it is. And we'll be doing once again, a whole week. Earth deserves more than a day. Last time we did this, 25 people were an amazing story and incredible story. We got to find out so much about the history of the Duwamish, the pollutants that are impacting the Duwamish today, and we got to talk to a lot of folks who had a lot to say. Well, we're going to pick that conversation up today. Joining me is Jeff Stern, who's with King County, and he's representing the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How have you been?
Fantastic. Well, why don't we start this off? You tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Jeff Stern with King County, and I'm representing the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group. It's often referred to as LDWG or Ludwig, as we like to call it. It's a collaboration between King County, the city of Seattle, and Boeing to work on cleaning up the Duwamish Waterway.
Okay.
And we do our work under the direction of EPA to implement their cleanup plan.
There are a lot of different entities that impact the Duwamish that you have to partner with and I guess figure this out together with, right?
Yeah, we're just four of over 50 different parties that have some responsibility in cleaning up the river. But we're leading the work.
All right. Now, you mentioned that this was a Superfund site. So what exactly is a Superfund site?
So the Superfund is a program under the US EPA. It's been around since the 80s. There's been a lot of sites around the country that have had pollution dumped into it, on it, left behind. And EPA's job is to go around, identify those sites and get them cleaned up. And so that's the Superfund program that does that work. And so they work and get people and try to find people who are responsible for some of those releases of the pollutants back then and have them work to clean it up.
Okay. Why are the EPA and the members of the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group cleaning up the river?
So the waterway was built back in the turn of the century. And it is like the main industrial corridor of Seattle. So for 100 years, there's been heavy industry. And, you know, in the past, they used to dump a lot of their effluents and pollutants into the water, thinking that was the best way to get rid of it. And so that over the years has
just dump it into the water. That'll take care of it.
Yeah. It's out of sight, out of mind, right? And so over this time, it's been accumulating in the sediments in the river bottom. And now EPA has worked to identify a lot of the parties that were responsible over the last century that have all contributed, including the members of the Lower Duwamish Work Group. And so now we're working on getting it cleaned up.
Okay, so what is sediment pollution?
So what happens is the stuff that's released into the water, the pollutants that are in there, like heavy metals and organic compounds that have been used by the industry or come from our own households, when it goes into the water, it gets attached to the sediment particles. And then those particles sink to the bottom of the river. And so the pollution builds up down in that in the bottom. And included in these chemicals is a compound called the polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs.
Give me that one more time.
Polychlorinated biphenyl.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's or PCBs as it's called. And one of the reasons that this compound was so used so much from the late 20s all the way through the end of the 70s was because it had such great properties. So it was used in electric transformers, other electrical equipment. It was in building materials like caulk and paint. And because it was used so heavily, it was because it lasted so long and had some great properties. Those properties are bad in the environment when it's released. They're very persistent. They're very toxic. They accumulate through the food chain. And so what happens is it builds up in fish and shellfish in the river, and then humans and wildlife eat those fish and get contaminated. And so with the people who live in the area and fish in the Duwamish, if they're eating fish and shellfish that live year round in the waterway, they're getting exposed to those contaminants and they're at risk. And you can also have health issues if you come in contact with the sediment.
Wow.
A lot. So if you're playing regularly in the sediments or in the beaches and things like that, that's also a risk. So we need to clean those areas up.
You know, when we were taking the tour, Jeff, we were told not to step in the river. I guess that's what you're talking about here with that sediment damage that is harmful to both fish and humans, right?
I mean, we're lucky that the level of contamination in the waterway isn't that dangerous, that you have to actually have years of exposure to really get to be at risk from it. But the people that live nearby may get those years of exposure over time.
So is it safe to fish from the river during cleanup construction activities?
No, it's not.
No.
So right now, if you eat fish out of the river, there's an advisory out by the Department of Health, the State Department of Health, that you're not supposed to consume any fish at all. None. And so that will remain during the rest of the cleanup because there's still contamination and it's still accumulated in those fish. So until the end of the cleanup, then the health department will take a look and see whether or not and how much of the fish and shellfish people can consume out of the river. And the better job the cleanup, the more people can eat out of the river after the cleanup. But there was a study that's done, and there's work that EPA has conducted in the river, along with the Seattle King County Department of Public Health, that identified that it's safe to eat the salmon that go through the river because they're not living in there. They just pass through on the way out and on the way back when they're migrating out to Puget Sound. And those it's safe to eat the salmon. But not the fish that live there all year.
Not the fish that live there all year, but the salmon, because they're passing through. That's okay. So what methods are being used to clean the contaminated sediment in the river?
So when we do cleanups, we do basically 4 different types of actions. One is that we dredge the material out of the river. So we actually scoop it out, put it into barges, transfer it over. It's loaded into rail cars and it's shipped off to approved landfills where it's safe to put that material. The second approach is that sometimes it's better to not try to dig it out and disturb it. You just cap it. So we engineer a cover that's made up of sand and gravel, potentially some amendments depending on what material's down there, and you leave it in place. And that often happens upland sites that are cleaned up. You can also do it in these in the river, if in some areas. The third is that over time, the sediment that's coming down from the Duwamish and the Green River, it actually deposits on top of the contamination and lowers the concentrations over time. as it mixes with the contaminants, and it drops down to levels that are considered not harmful.
Okay.
Right. And so we have to monitor that to make sure we actually achieve those goals over time.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, or if we can't, then we
Mhm.
have to go back in and do some other type of remediation. And the final one, it's called enhanced natural recovery, where we actually put a thin layer down to speed that natural recovery sedimentation up.
A thin layer
of clean sand.
Okay.
Yeah, that then mixes in. It's like getting 10, 15 years worth of sedimentation all at once, and helps isolate those contaminants.
Now, do we know if you cap these sediments, how successful that will be? Has there been enough time to say, okay, we think that if we cap these sediments, as opposed to dredging them or clearing them out, that this will make it? Do we have any information about that?
Well, they've been doing these types of caps for probably about 40 years now.
Okay.
And so we have a good understanding of when they can be successful, when they're probably not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But we also monitor them into the future.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at those caps to make sure that they actually stay intact and do isolate. If they don't, then we go back in and we dig it out.
You're listening again to Street Beat. It's me, Tony B. My guest is Jeff Stern from King County, the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group. Is that LD?
That's right.
Get that right?
Yes.
We're talking about the Duwamish and a Superfund site. What's taking place there? It's being cleaned up. And again, every Earth Day, we surround that with Earth Week, and we talk about issues for environmental justice and how that impacts our different communities and our various communities, and climate justice and how that impacts our various communities. One of those things that we have here is the Duwamish. We went to a visit on the Duwamish April. I forgot exactly what the date was. We took 25 people down there, and to find out that this place was down there, we learned a lot more about it. Jeff is here to talk more about it as a Superfund site. Jeff, what cleanup progress has been made so far?
So we're in the second year of cleaning up. So in the first year of the cleanup, we were down in near the south upriver of South Park, down in the Duwamish, not really near any of the South Park neighborhoods or anything like that, farther upstream. And we actually dredged up about 14,000 cubic yards, which is enough to fill about 220 rail cars that went off to the landfill. That's about 18-20% of the work that we had to do that first year. This year, we're now working on season 2. We're now closer to South Park. We're working around the bridge. We're working near the homes and parks. People are going to see the equipment out there. It's going on right now. We work between October and February of each season. And we've been, the contractor that we have is actually a South Park contractor called Pacific Pile Marine. They actually have their headquarters in South Park. They're working right now in the river today and around where people can see the equipment. And they work sometimes at night. They work during the day. And so people can potentially see lights, noise from construction with the equipment out there. And it's going to be going on for a lot longer, for several more years, but we'll be moving farther down the river away from South Park.
Okay. What will happen after all the work is complete?
So when the work is finished, EPA will monitor the site for years to come to make sure that we think we know what we're going to achieve from the cleanup that's designed, but we have to monitor like the fish in the river to see if we actually achieve the goals that we thought we did. We may have to go back and do more later. So EPA will be looking at the site and making sure that everything is working according to plan, achieving the levels that we were trying to get to in reducing the contaminants to safe levels. And that will be going on for a couple decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How can the public stay informed about Duwamish Waterway cleanup?
So we have a couple different ways that we're interacting with the public. There is the ldwg.org. That website contains all the information about what's been happening, and it also contains weekly updates on the construction this year. There's also, you can sign up on the website. You can sign up to get weekly newsletters about how the cleanup is progressing. And there's also a site on there where you can post comments or concerns, or if you see something in the river, ask questions. That's info@ludwig.org.
Okay, again, my guest is John Stern. Do you know much about the background of, I mean, you talked about it being basically a major superhighway. Do you know much about the background of when we came to realize that, wait a minute, this is being polluted. It's polluting the tribal land, tribes that are there, and the damage that this is causing. I mean, do you know much about that history and that background?
We actually started investigating this river back in the 80s.
Okay.
And that early work identified the problems that we saw, and was instrumental in identifying a lot of the existing pollution problems that were ongoing at the time and shutting them off. But it wasn't until around 2000 that we actually finally got around to doing the kind of the final study to decide what final cleanup needs to be done. And that took, it takes quite a long time when you're in a complex site like a river in the middle of a industrial area. So we spent years studying and looking and designing what would potentially be the right cleanup. And so that was finally adopted in 2014. And then the Lower Duwamish work group started on design of the cleanup, and that takes another period of time. And so we're finally getting around to the final cleanup. During that whole period of time, it takes so long to get there. We also did early action cleanups. 29 of the most polluted acres in the river we got out and done while we were doing the studies to get to the final design. It actually reduced the PCBs in the river sediments by half. So the concentrations were cut in half, and right away, even before we got to finishing deciding what that final cleanup would be. Now we're working on the final cleanup, and that cleanup is going to cost close to $700 million to finish.
$700 million.
Yes.
Wow. Again, this is Tony B. You are listening to Street Beat. My guest is John Stern. We're talking about the Lower Duwamish and the things that are going on there. We talk about this thing as a Superfund site. And you did explain what that was again. So I'm just curious, word Superfund, because it sounds like a good thing when you say Superfund site. Are these Superfund sites all over the country?
Yes, there's EPA's responsibility is to try to find the most contaminated sites around the country that have been abandoned often, or just are currently being used, but they're still contaminated, and identify them and get them cleaned up. And that's what the Superfund program is all about, is to find those sites, list them, get people who are responsible for that to clean it up. In some cases, if those people aren't around anymore, EPA does the cleanup. But if there are responsible parties that are around still, then those are the parties that that do the work to clean it up.
Okay. John, how did you get into this kind of work?
I have been doing this for most of my career. I'm an oceanographer by trade, and I've been studying pollution, fate, transport, and effects from the beginning of my career. And so I just ended up getting involved in sediment problems and aquatic pollution problems in the marine environment, and getting into the cleanup side of it too.
When you hear me talk about climate justice, environmental justice, what comes to mind for you? There are a lot of people who think, oh, when I hear about climate justice or environmental justice, these are ice caps melting in Norway or something like that. But the reality of the situation is a lot of these things impact us right here at home and in communities that folks still live in, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, as you're probably aware, a lot of the heavy industry is located in communities that are disadvantaged and have been doing that for decades and suffer the consequences of that bad air pollution, bad water pollution, contaminated sites, and it does have quite an effect. And so most of these sites that EPA are working on cleaning up are typically in these disadvantaged communities and helping, right some of these environmental justice problems that have occurred.
Now, you kind of touched on this before, but as we're moving forward, where can people go? How can they find out more information? How can they keep updated about what's going on and any changes that may happen?
Yeah, again, the ludwig.org site, ldwg.org, that contains all the information, weekly updates on the cleanup, all the work that's been done up to date in the past. And you can also sign up for, reach out to us at info@ldwg.org. We also have a hotline in case they see something during the construction that they need to report, and that is 1-888-561-LDWG or 5394.
Okay.
And then EPA also has information on their website about what's going on, and they also have social media sites, including Facebook and Instagram that you can contact through EPA.
Okay. Now, I know you're not from the EPA, but we've mentioned EPA quite a few times here. And just can you tell us a little bit, well, first of all, what EPA is, and then a little bit about the EPA and what they do?
Yeah, so EPA stands for the Environmental Protection Agency. They've a cabinet level post in the U.S. government that has been working to work on various environmental protection aspects around the country, and one of their programs is this Superfund program about cleaning up contaminated sites, either in use today or abandoned sites around the country. And so the work that we're doing has been directed by EPA, and they're deciding what needs to be done. We help them with those studies. They figure out what they finally think needs to be done in the Duwamish, and now we're helping implement that decision.
And who again are the members of the Lower Duwamish Waterway group? Who are those? You said there are some core members, and then there are an additional like 50 or something?
Well, the LDWG, the Lower Duwamish Work Group, is actually made up of King County, City of Seattle, and Boeing Corporation. And so we're some of the larger entities involved. Everybody else, there's probably 50 other parties that are also helping to contribute to the cleanup, but they don't have as large shares of what they owe. So main parties are the three of us, and we've decided to work on conducting the cleanup for EPA.
Yeah. So again, I'm going back to this. We talked about the sediment and the safety of the river. And just again to summarize this, fish that live and spawn in the Duwamish, don't eat those, right?
Right.
Salmon pass through, so salmon is okay.
They're safe to eat, yes.
They are safe to eat. And again, I was told actually not to step barefoot into the sediment. Now, you're saying that it does happen over time, that maybe stepping into it may not cause anything instantly, but it's unsafe, and it's continued.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you can just kind of run over that.
So, you know, if you're growing up in the area, you probably would have some concern that you wouldn't want to be stepping barefoot in the sediment, you know, as a child throughout your entire childhood. That would be dangerous.
That would be dangerous.
That could be dangerous depending on the level of contamination in any particular area.
Okay.
But for example, tribal fishermen, they fish there their whole lives, right? And they're pulling up nets that have been in contact with the sediment. And so we work with them to try to make sure that they have protective gear, they wear gloves, and to reduce that exposure, because they've been doing it for so long that can be a risk to them, and is a risk to them.
Again, my guest, John, thanks for joining us. We wanted to do this a few months ago, but this is something that happens all year round. So it's never too late. I want to give you the opportunity for final words here. Anything that you'd like to share with our listening audience right now about the work that you do, about the work that's being done, anything that you just feel is important that our audience would like to know.
I think people should be aware that because we only can work during the time of year that salmon are not migrating through the river, that out-migrating juveniles, where we can actually do a little bit of harm to them if they're interacting with mechanical work in the river. So we can only work for about 3.5 months every year. And so because of that, this cleanup is going to take over a decade to finish, because you just can't, we just aren't doing it. If we could work year round, we'd be done in, 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years. So this will be something that's going to disrupt people, and including the tribes and their fisheries and people living along that area. And we'd like to make sure that they understand that, it can be a disruption to their lives, but it's for a good reason. Clean up the river.
Jeff Stern, thanks for taking the opportunity to join us here and share this incredible, valuable information. And maybe this is a good time to talk about it because it's happening right now.
It is happening right now.
Happening right now. And you say this will continue to happen until February.
Yes. Yeah, if people go out to South Park, then the South Park Bridge, they can see the equipment out working in the river today.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And we'll be talking with you and hopefully working with you again next April for Earth Day and Earth Week, when Rainier Avenue Radio once again presents Earth Deserves More Than a Day. Appreciate you coming and sharing this information with us.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
It's great.
Yo.